footprints. It is the people who are in government who fail to give them the resources they need to implement the SOPI that has resulted in failure of implementation of emergency regulations. Because you gave me a task. You want me to perform a task. You fail to give me the resources and the tools to perform the task. How am I going to perform the task for you? That is the dilemma we find national security enforcement laws, national internal security forces. So the failure of national security is the failure of the Gambia government to provide adequate environment for security institutions to function to perform their security needs. And unless we are able to do this, we are going to experience more crime rates. We are going to experience more confrontation and more dissatisfaction, more insecurity of life and property and home in the streets. What we offer is the opposite of this. And today, once again, I am calling on the Gambia government to expedite the process of the security sector reform, because that is where the solution lies. To commit themselves to the proper implementation of the security sector reform. For 3.5 years, we have not been able to make much traction in this matter, because there is no political will, there is no commitment towards that. So we must make a national decision. Are we ready to go on with this tendency, with this trend, or are we ready to change this? That is up to Gambians. You have a chance to do this, to reflect this in 2021. And nobody must fool you. The bags of rice and the few $100 they are giving you is evidence of their insecurity. And when they sell your birthright to you, you accept these small monies and these small bags of rice and these small bags of sugar. Again, you mortgage your right. I will be standing here again to narrate the same story, and you'll be living in the same dire circumstances that we are living in today. So it is up to you, Gambians. Whether you want to change this or you want to keep it, the power belongs to you. But you know the circumstances because we are all living this. But let us be fair to our security agencies. They cannot do more than their capacity. Nobody can run more than your speed. Nobody can run more than your speed. We cannot require law enforcement agencies to run faster than their speed unless we give them speed impetus. And that impetus is in the hands of the Gambia government, and they are holding onto it and investing it into their own politics. This is the gospel truth, and we Gambians must make a decision to change this narrative and this trajectory. I thank you all. We'll take a few questions. We'll take a few questions. A few questions only. We'll take a few questions. We'll take 5 questions. That's it. Well, thank you very much.
I have a question.
Gambia Talents?
Yes. My name is Patu Samba. I work for the Gambia Talents TV. My question is, right now, before in those days, we have always seen the former head of state, Yahya Jammeh, with due respect. In as much as many people hate him, Yahya Jammeh will always come out, especially when certain things happen in the country. A lot of people are blaming not only the Gambian government, but even the Gambian leader, that is His Excellency, our President, Adam Barrow. Right now, a lot of people are asking for the resignation of the current minister, the current IGP. A lot of people are also saying that Gojibu should be sacked. I think a lot of people are also saying that the president should just do what you did today by coming out to Gambians, emphasize this, tell the leaders that, you know, Gambia belongs to everybody and they should respect the general public. I don't know, what is your own take when it comes to the president addressing Gambians so that people can know that, you know, the president is not responsible for what is going on. So many people are blaming him for not coming out to talk to the Gambian people.
Well, there is something that is very famous called the buck stops here. The government is the government of President Barrow. He's the president of the country. He's the one that was elected by Gambians. He has the mandate of the people directly. So he will take responsibility for all the good things that are happening in this government. He must equally take all the adverse effects of his government as well. I can speak from my experience. When I was the Minister of Interior, I would often engage Gambians on things that are happening of this nature. because it's my responsibility as security minister to deal with the situation. Today, the president decides to act in a different style. I think that would be a question for the president to answer. But I believe that in periods of uncertainty, when the nation really needs assurance, when the nation is in need of a direction, when the nation is in need of a consolation, the president of the country should come out and address the public. That is the requirement of leadership. That, I understand, should be the requirement of leadership. When the nation needs assurance in a period like now, it is necessary that the government should come forward to speak. But up to now, not a single member of the government came forward to address the public. Not at the level of the ministry, not at the level of the presidency. It looks like there is no leadership in the country. But that is the decision of those who are in authority. I would have done differently. And that is why I felt, as a leader of a political party, it is necessary for us to come and speak to the public, to clear the circumstances, but also to indicate what should be done. And we have fulfilled that mandate today. Now, whether the president will fulfill that mandate or not, is up to the fight for the Gambians to come. Let us all look, let us all observe to see what will happen.
Second question, IGP dafa war a resign coaching bu tam ne ko war a dàq yow si sa gis-gis lan nga foog ne loolu la président bi war a def dafa war a dàq ñii si système bi parce que fu mu nekk nii wax bi bëri na lool si social media foo mun a def rek ñu ngi wane IGP bi maanaam futur pour amee place bi nga xam ne moom la amee beneen bi tamit mu nekk interior ministre bi depuis bu mu dooree ba léegi fu mu nekk nii ñu ngi dégg case upon case ba léegi déggagul si ñoom. Is it that right now, comme que yow former interior minister la foog loolu des ko toogoon nga wax ak moom ne jamono ji war naa jóg wax ak nit yi parce que ñu bari luus nañ ko si li nga xam ne mooy security sector bi.
jërëjëf laajte boobu am na solo lool ndax ay gi war naa resign ndax war nañoo daaxa ki ñoo tuddee commissioner Gorgui Mboup loolu man dama gëm ne nguur dafa am doxin nguur dafa am système boo xam ne moom la war a topp su dara xewee lu mel nii investigation moo war a am dañu war a investigate ñu verify lan moo xewoon the facts to determine the facts because every decision maker li nga soxla pour make a decision mooy facts every decision maker need facts mënuloo make a proper decision in the absence of informed facts so informed facts yooyu noonu mënuloo ko am if you don't gather the facts you don't investigate and you get a conclusion te loolu mooy due process bi loolu la loi bi taxawal tam loi Gambia si boppam dafa wax ne képp kuñ tuumal whether police la mbaa leneen la there has to be an impartial investigation and in this investigation ki nga xam ne moom lañ tuumal tam am na right pour ñu dégga ko moom tam in other words the principles of fair hearing must be applied those who are accused and the people investigating plus the victim all of their stories must be heard so that the facts can be assembled and a conclusion can be made te ñu mun a taxawal dégg ñu propose line of action bi pour man fu mu nekk nii foofu leen toll ñu ngi investigate case bi si investigation bi dañ gëm ne su fekkee ne commission am bu continuer di occupy sitam bi xëy na mun naa influence investigations moo tax ñu put ko on administrative leave so relevant government institution ñu ngi investigate waaye man lu ma gën a kontaan mooy National Human Rights Commission bi tam ñi nga xam ne bokkuñ fenn te faruñ fenn ñooñu tam ñu ngi investigate seen own way te yaakaar naa ne ñun ñëpp war nañoo dal ñun ñëpp war nañoo xaar ñu muñ ba investigation boobu jeex investigation bi lim taxawal loolu ñun ñëpp ñu mun a toppal loolu noonu ñu xam loolu mooy conclusion bi ak recommendation si recommendation bi lu mu wone rek su fekkee ne consistent na ak loi bi ñu apply loolu so in the meantime I'm going to say that since we have an investigatory mechanism into effect by law enforcement, but also by an independent organization, the National Human Rights Commission, let us wait for the conclusion of the investigations and the recommendations for the next course of action. Man buguma wax because buguma preempt, at the same time buguma influence investigation bi nga xamne mom len put into effect. Te dama ñaan Gambians yépp ñu nekk social media ñu nekk feneen ñun yépp ñu xaar ñu dal ñu muñ ba investigation bi jeex ñu xaar ba National Human Rights Commission joxe résultat bi ak recommendation bi su boobaa ñu jaakaarloo ñi nga xam ne ñoo ñëwee seen liggéey pour ñu jël seen matuwaay ñu make sure ne recommendation si ñu implement ko so pour answer sa question bi mooy investigation bi nga xam ne moom lañ put into effect man dama bëgg a xaar investigation boobu jeex balaa maa wax ne war nañu daa kii ou kii war naa resign that's what I'll wait for. I'll wait for the investigation to complete waaye itam maa ngi ñaan ñi nga xam ne ñooy conduct investigation bi ñu expedite ko ñu gaawalante ko ndax askan bi amatuñu patience am nañ jéego yu bon yi nga xam ne am na si law enforcement bi nit ñi mer nañ te fu mu nekk nii nit ñi mënatuñoo antan ñaaw jëfte yu nga xam ne bari na fu mu nekk nii si law enforcement bi kon nañu gaawalantu ñu jeexal seen investigation bi ñu génn a wax askan bi lan moo xew ba pare government bi wax ñu ban step la ñoo jël su boobaa man dinaa xam lan laa war a tontu waaye at the moment dinaa preempt investigation bi te dinaa prejudice investigation bi nga xam ne is going on and that will be irresponsible of me. Thank you. Yes. I think this is going to be the third question. So we'll have two more questions.
I am Ahmed Mamos.
Mamos?
Yeah.
Lamawood.
Okay. During the graduation, you talked about we move on from the past. But looking at the security challenges that the country is facing at the moment, we have seen what happened at Farawa and Kunju, and also the protests at Brikama, and also the 3 years journal. And we are seeing Kurikumbu recently, in a week, he has been accused of stealing or taking over $14 million. And we also seen an allegation on him. And not long ago, we have seen a public supporting Khadija, giving their support for his sacrifice in executing her duties. And now that you are giving your support to the Gambian police force, I hope that will give them a hype to make sure that like we have seen a video circulating Kojimbo trying to defend himself on a PR mission, showing what he is and he has been doing. And now that you are giving your support, and the public is not going for the police force, but they are going for certain individuals. And now that you are giving your support, hope that will not give them that will not take another trees on the investigations.
I do not think so, because you must understand that I am also a politician of the contemporary generation. So I am very much present in social media, on Twitter and on all these social media platforms. So I know exactly what is happening. I know what is the pulse of the public and the mood of the Gambians. But I know oftentimes the public can be wrong. The public must not always be right. And I have been in positions of authority where I know sometimes you must resist the grain. You must go against public sentiment in order to protect that public. In other words, I have always maintained it in a legal maxim that I believe that is a breach of the law to uphold the law. In other words, sometimes people say you break the law in order to keep the law. So what we are saying is that I want the Gambian public to focus on what is going wrong, and not just on one wrong from one or two individuals and use it as a means to dehumanize or to demonize an entire institution. Because that is the tendency that is going on now. There are calls, let me finish, there are calls saying, there is a lot of calls, I have seen a lot of calls saying, scrap the anti-crime unit. That is very dangerous. Because you have a problem with the messenger, does not mean you should eliminate the message. In this case, Goringambo is said to be a bad messenger. But the message that is being carried is a very good message. So we must not reject the message because we don't like the messenger. That is the issue. We may not like the way Goringambo operates, as social media had indicated. But that is not to say anti-crime should not do its work. What we should be calling for is reforming and restraining anti-crime and ensuring that we have officers who are officers of integrity, who will protect public right, but also ensure public safety. That is what we should be working on. But it would be dangerous for this general clamor that is leading to a consensus that scrap it completely. That is my position. Number two, because of the crime or because of the perceived crime of one or two people at the anti-crime, the entire police force is seen as the enemy of the public. But these are not the enemies. You also have a few rotten potatoes that must be picked and thrown away. That is the issue. So I am here to put it within context that yes, we are angry at what happened at the crime. We are angry at some of the barbaric treatment that police force in this new government are doing against Gambians and other law enforcement agencies. That we are unhappy with the way our people are being treated. Yes, we are angry about all these things. But let us confront the cause. Let us confront the cause and not the effect. Right now, it appears there is a general antagonism against law enforcement. We are looking at the disease and not the cause of the disease. I am saying, let us look what caused the disease. Let us diagnose the disease before we look at the disease itself. In other words, let us look at the cause and not the effect. And some of the causes are itemized. That throughout this country, how many police stations have technology, have computers? How many police stations have you gone to find computers there? How many of them have electricity when there is no light? How many of them have vehicles when you report a case that they can go and patrol? How many of you have seen police in your neighborhood? How many of you in the country? How many of you have seen them patrolling across the borders? How many of you have seen them with a walkie-talkie communicating to each other? You saw Khadijaju. She was in the middle of a water pool, in the middle of a street, without proper shoes, because the Gambia police force do not have rain clothes. They don't have raincoats. They don't have boots that are water sensitive. They don't have the tools and the gadgets. And if Khadijaju was not that type of extraordinary police officer, very enthusiastic, living in the tool, she could easily go by the wayside, just like other police officers would, and they would be right. They would be right to get out of the rain because they are not going to. They don't have medical insurance. When they get sick, they don't have the money to cure themselves. She could suffer from pneumonia and anything. You and I do not care how they live. Their families will suffer. We don't give the police any insurance. They don't have any medical cover. And it is raining. You expect them to go out and then do their job under the rain. They don't even have rain boots. They don't even have simple raincoats. How do we expect them to do their jobs? So look at some of these things. Yet we have crime every day on the rise. And we expect them to perform to contain crime. We are not giving them the resources. We must be fair. We must speak truth to each other. I'm not condemning all the oppression. I'm not condemning the human rights abuses. But I'm not also condemning this blind allegation and this blind vilification. Because we as a country have failed to provide the resources. We have not put our government officials to account so that they can put our security first. But we are crazy. We are fighting behind them in their political parties, donning their political callers, party callers, and we are running blindly behind them. We are not even looking at ourselves. This is the situation of the country. So what I have indicated is not to embolden them towards committing more crimes against the public. It is to reflect the attention of the public towards the negligence of our own public security needs. That is what we need to understand. That is the difference. Because I made it clear that Gorgimbo must be investigated. That if he is found guilty, he must be prosecuted. And if found guilty, sent to prison. And many Gorgimbos in the police enforcement, not just the police, everywhere else. But Gorgimbo is not the reason of anti-crime. Anti-crime exists not because of Gorgimbo. It exists because of the public. So if we have bad officers there, let us weed out the bad officers, strengthen the unit, empower it with resources and with good officers so that they can continue to do their job, but not to take the baby and the bathwater and throw them outside. That is not what I'm advocating. I hope you understand me.
My name is Ahmed from Paradise Island. My question is, don't you think that it is high time to look into the anti-crime department for proper scrutiny based on the numerous crimes alleged to have been done by the anti-crime department?
Absolutely. I think it is necessary for the Inspector General of Police to take an incisive look, a critical look into what is happening at anti-crime. That is why I'm saying that we need to look at the rotten potatoes that are there. We remove them, eliminate them. But we need to strengthen the anti-crime. We need to reorient them so that they can continue to perform their duties. Several allegations have been made against them, and most of these allegations, not to my knowledge, have been properly investigated. Now we have the case of Ibrahim Hassani, which is a watershed. It affords us a one-time opportunity to look at everything holistically, everything that's wrong with the administration and management of anti-crime unit. So this is an opportunity now for the police command to correct the ills within the anti-crime, reorganize it, reform it and reorganize it. But it is a very vital unit that should continue to protect the public. Only when it's necessary that we should put officers with integrity, officers who are properly trained, who understand fighting crime against the equilibrium of maintaining human rights, fundamental rights of the republic. If we're able to achieve these two, then I think it is going to be a much needed department that will continue to serve the public security and safety aspirations of the Gambian people. But yes, we need to investigate all of the allegations there. And it has to be independent, it has to be exhaustive and conclusive. And the results, recommendations, results must be made public to the Gambian people. So that those who are culpable, they are removed, they are prosecuted, and an example is set for the whole country to see. That I agree. But we must reform it, we must restructure it, and we must people with personnel who are full of integrity. But we must also resource them so that they have the tools necessary to protect the public. Thank you. One more question now. Last question, Uba. Okay, well, second to last question. Second to last question.
Thank you very much, Honorable. My question will, of course, focus on the issue of the security sector reform. Like you said, you have been there before, and according to you, you in fact initiated the process. And we are all aware where the process is now. A draft has been drafted already. If I can remember, there was a workshop to review the draft. I don't know what is the state now, but looking at our experience, of course, Gambians, with police, security officers, not only police, even the military in the past, and Barrow himself being in the center of that, so that led to him being elected as the UDP candidate for the 2016 election because of the brutal event that happened after the death of Solo Sane that led to the arrest of Hussein Dabo and others. Eventually, given the opportunity to be the UDP, eventually to the coalition then presidency. Should we consider the lack of security sector reform as the greatest weakness, or should we consider it as the greatest failure of the Barrow administration, given all the symptoms that passed before he came to office, and even after that, with these experiences of working Faraba and other places? Thank you.
Thank you very much. Since the Barrow administration is still on, there will be more failures, so it would be difficult to say it is the greatest failure because we still have up to 2021 and there will be more failures along the line. So maybe there are bigger failures on the way. But I will say so far it is one of the main failures, one of the failings of the administration. Because when we came in 2017, one of the critical areas that needed urgent attention was the security sector. And that was why my ministry gave it #1 priority. And that is the reason why when we set up a multidisciplinary task force at the office of the president, when we all met there, with all of the ministries in charge of security, and not only security but economic prosperity, I put up a very passionate case as to why the Minister of Interior should take the lead in the security sector reform. Then as minister, I was able to get the consensus of the team, including those who were present. The European Union were there, United Nations, our development partners. And everybody agreed that the presentation that day by the Minister of Interior was the right one, and that I managed to give them space within the Minister of Interior to house the security sector task force, and also to conduct a study of the first ever national security assessment of the Gambia that looked at the entire security situation of the country in every aspect and create a report with the support of the United Nations at the time. Then we began to launch security sector reform as a policy, and this was also during my time as the Minister of Interior. It was launched by the President, of course, with my input at Fajara, when the President was still living at Fajara. When we had the first National Security Advisor also, who was then our ambassador in Turkey, we recalled him, Mahmoud Baye, to become the first National Security Advisor. And then we began the process into effect. But soon afterwards, I was relieved of my responsibilities. And the enthusiasm that informed the security sector reform as a policy and as an idea started to lose its tailwind. And we saw a nosedive in the concentration on security sector reform. So we must understand that we have foreign forces in the Gambia. We have ECOMIG here. And I know something about ECOMIG because I was involved in the negotiations from the beginning. We were not thinking that ECOMIG should be here up to this time, because we were supposed to conduct a successful security sector reform that would see the departure of ECOMIG and the gradual assumption of national security duties by the armed forces and law enforcement agencies of the Gambia, so that the country can be fully sovereign with our own national institution of security, taking care of our national security. But unfortunately, it would be very unsafe today for foreign forces to live in the country because security sector has not been completed. So it is a major policy failure, a huge policy failure. One of the main planks of the policy considerations of our government, coalition government, and now the borough government, is the failure of the security sector. And if you talk to them, they will tell you security sector is succeeding. All they talk about is, there is something called right sizing. Right sizing is going on. We have reduced the number here, reduced the number here. Security sector is not about reducing the number of people, personnel in the armed forces or in the police. It's more than that. But the security sector is about attitude. It's about a framework. It's about mindset. It's about institutions. It's about capacity. It's about laws. It's not just reducing number here and adding here. But that is all government will tell you. That we are right sizing now. We have the problem of right sizing. They are looking at only 5% of security sector reform, and 95% is eluding. And that is why we still have economic forces here. And I will insist they stay, because it is necessary for the country to remain stable. Because we have not done what we should do as a country to strengthen, to streamline, to capacitate our security institutions. And failure to do that really squarely falls on the Gambia government. So yes, I'll agree with you. It is one of the monumental failures of the regime. And it is one of the areas that is given less emphasis. Because when I returned to President's office as Special Advisor to the President, the very first meeting that I had, this meeting included all the security chiefs together with our development partners, the European Union, the United Nations, the foreign expatriates that are attached to the security sector reform, they call them DCAF, and many more. We all sat down at the office of the President, and it was informed at that meeting that I was going to handle with another person the completion of the security sector reform, because not only Gambians, but our development partners were becoming very frustrated with the extremely slow pace of the security sector reform, to a point that they were beginning to withdraw from the entire process. So in order to give it new lease of life, they were informed that Honorable Maifati is now going to be in charge of, re-engineering, putting more speed into the process. And that was how we were able to complete the drafting of the national security policy, had it validated, and get it launched by the President at Kairaba Beach Hotel. You have all witnessed that. And we all made speeches towards that. So, but that's not the end of it. You don't just make a policy, a document, and you make a speech, then you go and rest. You need to implement. It is the implementation where the details are, and it is where we are, in fact, very slow. Very slow. Very slow. And that slow pace is a reflection of the commitment or lack of commitment. That is all it talks about. So indeed, we need to do something, and I urge the government to please come forward and do more with this security sector reform. It is inexcusable that 3.5 years, the country is not able to see anything really positive about security sector reform. We need to be able to see, not just what is happening behind the scenes. And that is where we are looking at, because we have seen that the security establishments have not changed much in terms of their modus operandi. So if we had a successful security sector reform, we would have seen tremendous, remarkable changes in the manner in which the management and the operations of our security outfits would have reflected. Thank you very much. Uba, last question.
Yes, I want to ask a very short question. Thank you very much. We're talking about a government where we are working.
Yes.
To your minister.
Yes.
Also, he was the advisor to the minister also.
Yes.
It's like you have more experience there. Now, my question is, you talked about the reforms that you wanted to do there, but unfortunately, you were sacked, and they were not continuing. They didn't go on with that. So unfortunately for that. So with your experience, as the party leader of GMC, do you think the president is competent to lead President Barrow?
Do I think President Barrow is competent to lead the country? What a very smart question. A simple question, a complicated one. All right, I think that's a loaded question. President Barrow was elected by Gambians. You elected him. And I was one of the lead political party stakeholders who also elected him. Not only that, I have a part to blame if President Barrow has not done well. I have a part to benefit from if President Barrow did well. Because not only did GMC was the first political party to support his candidature, but GMC was among the parties that actually campaigned for him to get him the delegates he needed to be elected as the coalition flag bearer. So I will admit that I played a part, and I'm not going to say I will not take part of the blame for getting President Barrow to lead the Gambia. Whatever it is, Barrow was our Barrow that we put him forward, and his mistakes are some of the mistakes that we must take as a corporate mistake. So today, we must face the reality. Now, whether President Barrow is competent, that is for Gambians to say. Because, let me finish, I'm just one individual. I'm one individual.
You have your opinion.
I am one individual. President Barrow was voted for by Gambians, and it is Gambians who will pass a verdict on him, whether he was competent or not competent. But based on my view, I think President Barrow could have done better, more than he did. I think President Barrow, it is difficult to give a yes or no answer. President Barrow has done well in some other areas. He's done very bad in other areas. I think he made some very bad decisions in many areas. I think he's doing well in terms of infrastructure. He's doing well in building infrastructure in Upper River, in other parts of the country. In terms of governance, he has done bad. President Barrow's style of governance is not good at all. I would not consider President Barrow a good president in terms of governance. But I would say he has done very well in terms of infrastructure. He's done very well in terms of building infrastructure. He's done very well in terms of being tolerant. Because today, we all know President Barrow is vilified everywhere. The kind of statements that are uttered against him, the kind of things that are said about President Barrow and his government, well, it takes a person with great courage and great patience to accept these things without reacting. So in that sense, I think he's a very tolerant leader. That is a very good character of him. But in terms of governance, I would say the state of the Gambia is in a very bad shape. I think that answers your question. Thank you.